right, welcome everybody to this important session on becoming a least vulnerable person. We're excited to bring this information to you for so many reasons. When the pandemic hit, before we realized what was really happening and it started to change so fast, the world started to change, we put together this Becoming a Least Vulnerable Person program for our patients, the people in our community, for our 100-Year Lifestyle affiliate doctors, chiropractors around the country that were serving their communities. And it has really made a difference. We're so excited about that. We have people that are functioning healthier. They're not afraid. Their health is improving. Their stress levels have been down. And so we wanted to do it again and bring it to you in a way where you can possibly watch this over and over again, where you can use it to get the knowledge and information to make yourself more empowered even than you were before. You can share the knowledge, the information with the people in your life, your family, your friends, your coworkers, the people that are important to you, generations of individuals and families. And so we have a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. What is super exciting is that, yes, your 100 is still coming. The 100-Year Lifestyle, we have been helping people function at their highest level for a lifetime, for decades now, getting people to realize their human potential as it relates to longevity, but not just getting to 100, but really living their best life every single day, no matter what their age, whether they're teenagers or in their 30s or 50s or anywhere in between. And I have some good news for you. That you just survived the pandemic. If you're reading our articles on 100-Year Lifestyle, or if you're attending this webinar, you just survived a pandemic, which means that your bodies are stronger than they were 6 or 9 months ago. Your immune system is stronger than it was 6 to 9 months ago. You have probably on some level embraced your ability to adapt. Some of you are marveling at your amazing ability to survive and even thrive under these circumstances, and you're having more confidence in yourself. And this is what we want for all of you. And certainly during this presentation, I am going to be very sensitive and very compassionate, because many of us know family members, loved ones, friends who have been affected by the pandemic in ways that were tragic, and in some ways that were stressful, super duper stressful, losing jobs, losing family members, losing livelihoods. And listen, we want you to know that you're still here, that in spite of all of that, with all the love in my heart, I am compassionate to all of those circumstances, and you are still here. And because you are still here, your best maybe, could be, should be yet to come. And we have been reporting, as some of you that have been following us, we have been reporting that there have been many people that have survived this pandemic. In fact, the majority of people have. In fact, there are many 100-year-old people that we have reported about that have survived and even thrived through this pandemic. And we did a podcast on it. For those of you that aren't familiar with our podcast, the 100-Year Lifestyle podcast that you could access on 100yearlifestyle.com or directly from Apple or any of the other podcast outlets, you realize that, yes, you have something in common with them, that you survived this pandemic. They've survived multiple pandemics, multiple epidemics, but you have learned about, what you have learned, hopefully, is that you have an extraordinary ability to adapt. We reported about it. One of my friends, colleagues out in the world, Andy Wakefield, he has a movie that just came out in 1986, The Act. I highly recommend it. He just made this post about, hey, this is a woman 103 years old that made it an entire century without vaccines. We're going to talk a little bit about that as this call progresses. And so we want you to have confidence in yourself. That's one of the purposes of this. And there's an article on 100yearlifestyle.com that is very relevant. I'm going to review some of the things that I actually already said. Is that this article is called Trends, Casualties, and Control. Because even in spite of this pandemic, the way the world is changing drastically, that this trend is still continuing, that people are living longer than ever. 100-year-old people are still percentage-wise one of the world's fastest growing groups. And so that trend is still continuing. And yes, there will be casualties along the way. And we are sad for those people, as we've already mentioned. The thing is that because you're still here, like many of these 100-year-old peoples who have lived through multiple epidemics, multiple pandemics, major wars, the Great Depression, 22 recessions, the Great Recession, the most recent one, again, you're still here. So what can you do for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones is you can take control over the things that you have control over to make yourself a least vulnerable person. And by making yourself a least vulnerable person, you will put yourself in a position so that no matter what is going on in the outside world, that in your inner world, you are strong, you are immune, you are confident, you are fearless. And one of the things that I've said many times in my speaking engagements over the last 9 months is that just because I'm not afraid doesn't make me reckless. Because when you have the knowledge about the science, how to keep yourself less vulnerable, how to avoid the things that make you sick, to keep you strong on every level, then you don't have to be afraid. You can be not reckless, but you can live your life. You can go about your life. You're not going to harm anybody else. The healthy people are not the problem. The sick people will care for them, will love them, will protect them in whatever ways that we can, while at the same time, you individually can function at your highest level for a lifetime. We call it living at 100% for 100 years. And by the way, this is a great goal. And it sure beats 75% for 82 years or 68% for 87 years or 57% for 96 years. Living at 100% for 100 years is a great vision and a great goal that will make you, it will make your loved ones least vulnerable people. And it's all about making the most of every single day along the way so that you enjoy the journey all along the way and you get there in style, with health and vitality. So this is another article on 100yearlifestyle.com. I'm going to use a lot of the resources that we report on a regular basis to deliver this message so that you can find these resources and go back and live without fear and constantly empower yourself to be stronger in your mind, stronger in your body, and be more purposeful in all your actions. This is a really important point because we do have in our country today, in the world today, there is an epidemic of fear. People are afraid of viruses, bacteria. They're antibacterializing everything, their hands, their face, which is very, very concerning to me and a lot of other healthcare practitioners out there. Me as a practicing chiropractor for 35 years, traveling the world, speaking to groups of doctors, fitness leaders, financial people through the 100-year lifestyle all around the world. We have, through these leadership conversations that we have with these leaders in all different fields, we have all realized that this epidemic of fear is probably the biggest problem that we have, because fear makes you more vulnerable. As you'll see, it will lower your immune system. And one of the goals of this program is to have you live your life without fear. And this may be new to you. This information may be new to you, but it is not new to us. We have been empowering families in my private practices for 35 years. We have a network of 100-year lifestyle affiliate offices around the country, maybe in the cities that you're in. If some of you are doctors on the line and you want to learn about how you could become a part of our network, we'd love to chat with you. You can contact us directly. I'll give you that later on in the call. So some of this information may be new to you, but it's not new to us. We've seen people implement these resources, these conversations, this consciousness to become less vulnerable as time has gone on, and their families have gotten healthier through every phase of life, from newborn babies to high school kids and college kids and new parents and pregnant moms and dads and seniors and everybody in between, working people, and even on through 100-year-old people. Some of you that are familiar with our story and what we put out are a long time ago, the story of Max, who is the one who inspired, the 100-year-old man who inspired this conversation about the 100-year lifestyle. His entire story is on our YouTube channel. So we have seen 99-year-old men, 98-year-old people who have made themselves less vulnerable after being very vulnerable by implementing a lot of these ideas and these strategies and these researches and these articles and these techniques that we'll talk about. And we've raised our family this way. All three of our kids They have not had any vaccines. They have been naturally immunized, not artificially immunized. They have avoided a lot of the sicknesses that have plagued so many other families. And we want you to feel that way too. And so I'm going to get into the details, the science, the research, the ideas, the important strategies that you need to understand. Before I do, I'm going to I know ahead of time because I've done this many, many times. For a lot of you, I'm going to go fast. For some of you, maybe I'll be going slow. Here's the thing. There are resources that you can go to, and we're going to give them to you for free. We're not selling them. We're giving them to you. So if you go to 100yearlifestyle.com, there are 2 gifts that we're going to give you for attending. One of them is a neuroscience ebook. It's called Exciting Neuroscience Breakthroughs for All. It is a translation of a podcast that we did with amazing strategies to help rewire your nervous system. So that's one we'll give you. If you go to 100yearlifestyle.com, you'll see this pop up, fill it out. We're also going to give you a free copy of the 100-Year Lifestyle 2nd edition. So please be on the lookout for that as well. And visit 100yearlifestyle.com again to get that information. So let's talk about the most vulnerable people. Who are the most vulnerable people? There's been a lot of talk about seniors being the most vulnerable people, but we're questioning that. And a lot of people are questioning that. Why are we questioning that? Because I just showed you pictures, images, beautiful images of beautiful people who got COVID, got coronavirus, and survived. And so these people, they were 100 years old, but they were not vulnerable to the point where this virus overcame their body's ability to cope, and they survived it. So one thing that is very important, what we've learned through the principles of the 100-Year Lifestyle, what we've learned in our chiropractic practice, what we've learned in the chiropractic practices that we work with around the country and around the world, is that we need to stop blaming age. Age has taken the rap for so many things that it's not age's fault. We see people that come into our practices where they come in and they're hurting, or they're feeling old, or they're not moving the way that they think they should, or they're suffering, and they start getting adjusted, they start getting care, they start changing their life. And then all of a sudden they feel better and they feel younger, even though they're older in age, maybe 30 days older in age, 90 days older, a year, 5 years older in age, but they're younger in movement and function. So it's important that you stop blaming age, and that you not blame age, and you not fear age. Why? Because that's the one thing that you can't control, because everybody gets physiologically older or biologically older, I should say, but not necessarily physiologically older. And if you do the right things to take care of yourself, then you will function at a much higher level. You'll feel younger regardless of your age. So who are the most vulnerable people? Well, they are people with suppressed immune systems. They're people who are already dealing with other health conditions. And these are unhealthy people who just have not taken care of themselves, who are making poor lifestyle choices. Well, we're going to address all of those things in a way that every single change that we talk about making, that you can make as a result of what we go over, every change is going to lessen your vulnerability. If you make all of these changes and make them your new lifestyle, then that's what the 100-Year Lifestyle is really all about. You make all of these changes, you make them your new lifestyle, you learn to love the things that are good for you, and then you end up, as every year goes by, you function at higher and higher levels, regardless of your biological age. So let's talk about something that is coming up a lot lately that increases vulnerability. You've seen it on the news. You've seen it in all kinds of special reports. Maybe you've seen it with the people that you love, maybe aging parents or grandparents. And it's a concept called polypharmacy. Well, what is polypharmacy? Well, it's people that take more than one medication. This is a very important concept because polypharmacy is dangerous. It is most common among seniors and individuals with multiple medical conditions. But because older people metabolize drugs differently, the combined effects of these medications can be especially harmful. Here's the one thing, though, that is left out in a lot of these studies and a lot of these reports, is that it's not just the aging population. There are so many parents that are giving their kids all different kinds of medications because they think they're making their lives easier. So the way that you can make yourself least vulnerable is when it comes to medication is, number one, always choose drug-free healthcare choices first. This is an exciting thing. We're seeing more and more people doing this day in and day out. Why? Because they're coming to our chiropractic offices. They're going for nutritional consultations. They're doing things that are anti-drug first. They're making drugs a second or third or fourth resort instead of a first resort. And this includes over-the-counter drugs. One suggestion that we make very strongly to people is before you ever take a medication, or if you know people that are on multiple medications, go to drugs.com. Anybody can go to drugs.com. And you go to drugs.com and you enter in your medication, and you could look at the side effects, and then you could explore drug interactions. The only challenge is that in these reports, what is not included is the long-term usage, the impacts of the long-term usage of these medications. And what we do know is that the longer you take them, the more likely you are to experience side effects. So here's why this is so important, because I know some of you on the line, if you're 30 or you're 40 or you're 50 and you start taking lifestyle-oriented prescription drugs or non-prescription drugs, or maybe it's in your teens or your 20s, and you're taking them on a regular basis, maybe daily, maybe weekly, well, you have to realize that none of these drugs were tested for use over the course of decades, none of them. And so why is that important for you? We are realizing, and we are seeing more and more people that are developing dementia, that are drug-induced dementias. They are drug-contributed dementias that are very concerning to seniors, and this makes them more vulnerable. And the more your body physiologically has to adapt to medications, the more vulnerable that you can become. And we're seeing it in the elderly, but a lot of it starts because people start taking multiple medications when they're younger. The next thing that I want to go over with you is sitting. So many people, especially today, which is really concerning, I think, especially now with kids in school, is kids are sitting too much, people are sitting too much, people are on too many Zoom calls, things like that. And because they are sitting too much, sitting can be very dangerous and make you more vulnerable. According to certain reports, on average, Americans sit for about 11 hours each day. And listen to this, everybody. Physical activity is linked to more than 3 million preventable deaths every year globally. That is a staggering statistic. It ranks 4th as a leading cause of death from non-communicable diseases. So here's the thing, because it does wear down your body and it is linked to all kinds of deaths every year globally, well, obviously it makes you more vulnerable. They say that sitting is the new smoking. So sitting makes you more vulnerable. So here are 3 simple things that you can do right now if you're sitting a lot, or if you're doing too many Zoom calls, or if you're doing too many, spending too many hours sitting at your desk or driving in cars, or the collective efforts of all of those things. There's the 50-10 rule. That means that you set an alarm on your phone, and every 50 minutes you get up and stretch for 10 minutes at least. So that's one thing that everybody can do. Have a meeting on the move. Instead of having meetings where you're sitting around a desk, get up and move. Go for a walk and have a meeting when you're walking. Have a meeting on a trail somewhere. These are things that you could do to take your business, take your family outside to have the discussions that need to happen. Or if they're Zoom meetings, do it from your phone and do it while you're moving. And then thirdly, another thing you can do to stop sitting, making yourself less vulnerable, is standing desks. Standing desks are very helpful. I have one. I'm sitting now, but I can raise it up. I can raise it down. It is very helpful. I have a standing desk and I have a standing monitor that I can raise up and down also. Very important for those of you that are spending too much time sitting, because too much sitting makes you most vulnerable. Sitting less makes you less vulnerable. Next, obesity and weight. I've heard a lot of patients, people in our practice, they have used the term like the COVID-15 or the pandemic 15. And listen, we know it is well documented that obesity and being overweight is the second leading cause of preventable death in the United States, behind tobacco use. Preventable deaths. It's estimated to kill 300,000 deaths per year. And so why is this a problem, especially during this time of pandemic? You need to get your butt up and start moving, seriously, because we know that if you are obese and you are more vulnerable, than if you don't take care of yourself and you allow yourself to sit too much, and then you're stressed out, and all of these things that we're going to talk about, they add up. You are really putting yourself at risk. And what is really concerning to me, and I'm going to be a little in your face here, if this applies to you or somebody that you love, there's a lot of obese. I was in a supermarket one day, and there was an obese person in the line in front of me. And I have no judgment towards this person. I'm completely non-judgmental about it. But what was interesting is she was being judgmental at me because I wasn't wearing a mask. And I had a cart filled with fruits and vegetables and healthy, lean proteins. And she had a cart literally filled with probably, I'm going to estimate, a dozen 32-ounce bottles of Coca-Cola, and another few six-packs of Coca-Cola. And then she had all kinds of unhealthy chips and all kinds of things. And she was wearing a mask. And she was concerned about her vulnerability. And she was looking at me and judging me because I wasn't wearing a mask, where I'm not contagious. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not afraid of something that she's going to give to me. And I know that there's nothing that I have that's going to give to her. Yet she was judging me because I didn't wear a mask. And so here's the thing about this that I think is really important. If you are unhealthy and you know you need to make changes and you're not willing to make them, why should we mandate or cause the rest of the world to make changes in their life that are inconvenient, unhealthy in many ways, like we're learning that masks are, et cetera, as opposed to if you're not willing to make these changes in your lifestyle? And it's an important concept because, and it has nothing to do with me changing you or you changing me. This is about you becoming a least vulnerable person. If you're truly concerned about your vulnerability, then you should really take a look at how you manage your weight. We're going to talk about nutrition as time goes on, because being overweight makes you a more vulnerable person, and it makes you significantly more vulnerable. There's a report out, talk about vulnerability, that data from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, we know the statistic, everybody knows it's affecting all kinds of communities, that opioids are responsible for all kinds, 41,000 deaths a year, plus all kinds of other hospitalizations and tragedies that are out there. Well, this is concerning, obviously, because people that are in pain, they are taking opioids way too much, they're addicted. If you are addicted to opioids, or you know somebody that is addicted to opioids, they are becoming more and more vulnerable as time goes on. 41,000 deaths a year, we are learning with recent numbers that have come out by the CDC about the actual numbers of COVID deaths that were 6% of the original value if you take away all the comorbidities. Well, then when you realize that all of these things that we're talking about here are actually more deadly than COVID. And so for you and your family and your loved ones, taking a stand for vulnerability and having conversations related to vulnerability and communicating about vulnerability, all of these things are really important, because these are things in ways that we are really losing people. If most of the deaths that occurred during this pandemic have been people that had comorbidities, all of these things that make you more vulnerable, these are examples of comorbidities. What has been interesting in this year, as a practicing chiropractor for 35 years, and we're actually celebrating our profession, celebrating 125 years. We were just named by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security as essential healthcare providers. Why were we labeled essential healthcare providers? Because the care that we provide helps keep people less vulnerable, and it keeps people from being on medication unnecessarily. And so it's exciting to be able to serve in that way. And a big question that comes up as it relates to vulnerability is germs and vulnerability. And if you've studied anything about the immune system, other than what you're hearing on mainstream media, which is not reporting anything really, very minimal about the immune system and about what you can do to make yourself more vulnerable. It's really the mainstream media, I think, has been terrible covering things because it's all about scaring you into staying inside or staying away from people or being afraid of germs. And they're doing it in such a way where they're not really talking about how you can make yourself less vulnerable. And so when you think about germs, we are misguided on germs. All the scientists around the world, other than the ones that work for the governments, all of the scientists that are specializing in microbiology and biology and immunology, they talk about the importance of bacteria and viruses, how necessary they are. When you look at the ratio, this is a staggering number, by the way. When you look at the ratio, I think it's 100 trillion microbes inside of you. 100 trillion microbes. That's viruses, bacteria inside of your body. You have more bacteria and viruses inside your body than you do cells. So really what we've learned and what we know from an immune system perspective and making you less vulnerable, we know that to stay less vulnerable, your body has to be healthy and live in harmony with the germs. So if you just have a focus on killing germs, you are actually making yourself a more vulnerable person. There have been a lot of reports where people that are rubbing their hands with antibacterial soap on a regular basis, that their skin is wearing down, that they're getting skin lesions and skin infections. Why is that happening? It's because they're destroying the flora, the normal balance between the bacteria, the viruses, and the cells of the body. Where else have we seen this happen? We've seen it happen with people in my generation growing up. We were given antibiotics for every little sniffling cold, and maybe your children early on when you were raising them, many parents, because they didn't know any better, giving their kids every sign of a sniffle, giving antibiotics. Well, why is this a problem? Because you end up destroying the balance of the flora, which then all of a sudden we had about 15 years ago, we had this development of probiotics, which were to give your body the good bacteria that were destroyed by the antibiotics, because when you throw the bacteria out of balance within your body, you make yourself a more vulnerable person. Well, we don't want you to be more vulnerable. We want you to be less vulnerable. And so an overuse of antibiotics, fearing germs, is going to make you a more vulnerable person. We want you to be a less vulnerable person. We need to learn to live in harmony with those bacteria and viruses. And there's a great article. It's called Superbugs and the War on Germs. It's on 100yearlifestyle.com. If you want more information on this, it's a great read. And the principle behind this, which I think is really important, and the theories behind this, way back when, years ago, we don't have time to get into all of the backstory and the science, but I do want to lay the framework of this. There was the germ theory and the host theory that came out at similar times. And let's just say from a scientific journal perspective or a political perspective, they got in a little bit of a battle. This is early on in the early 1900s, late 1800s. And the germ theory won out over the host theory at the time. And what we are realizing is, and that's why we had this development of antibiotics and this prescription drug explosion that has happened over the last century. But it has not made us a healthier country as far as the United States goes. And actually, we are one of the unhealthiest of the industrialized nations. And we take more drugs than any other industrialized nation. We have 50% of the world's, 5% of the world's population, and we take 50% of the world's drugs. And it has not made us healthier. And what is kind of exciting is that the terrain theory, the host theory, has rebranded itself as the terrain theory, and it is exploding on the scene. And why? Because we know that the host, the terrain, is much more important than the actual germ, that we need to live in harmony with the germs. And there's another article on 100yearlifestyle.com. It's a parody. I call it Breaking Fake News. It's maggots kill elephants. And they don't really, but I want you to read it because it really speaks to what's going on here in a way that will have it make sense to you. So this is great follow-up information for those of you that might be interested in this to get more knowledge. So when you understand the host and you understand the principle of keeping the host strong, keeping the immune system strong, which is why so many seniors are becoming centenarians as time goes on, It's important to understand the technology within the body, the body's innate intelligence, that we have an ability to adapt. So if you keep your body strong, if you keep yourself a least vulnerable person, then your body has a greater chance of adapting. And we see this with our practice members, our patients in our chiropractic office. We talk about it, our 100-year lifestyle doctors around the country and around the world. We have calls on a regular basis where we talk about these issues with our practice members, our patients, the people that come in either for crisis care or lifestyle care. And we talk about how to get the body working better, not how to destroy the bugs, but how do we get the body working better? How do we work with our body's innate intelligence? Because it is always true, and it will always be true, regardless of condition, that if the immune system is strong and the body is balanced and the body is functioning properly, then you do not have to live in fear. So a lot of what we're going to go over from this point is we've looked at some of the things that can make you more vulnerable. Now we're going to look at some things that can make you less vulnerable. And did we cover everything? No, we did not cover everything. We have only about 45 minutes to an hour on this particular call. So we're going to get as much in as we can to give you a balance of both sides. If you're interested, we'll do another one and we'll add some more information. But let's talk about becoming a least vulnerable person, boosting your immune system, making yourself stronger, that regardless of your age, everything that I go over here, the things that we've said that you can eliminate because they make you more vulnerable, and the things that we're going to add or do differently, or the lifestyle changes that you can make, will literally make you least vulnerable every day. You will become less vulnerable. If you start eating better every day, you'll become less vulnerable every day. If you start thinking more positively every day, you'll become less vulnerable every day. If you get adjusted, keep your nervous system healthy, you will become less vulnerable every day. Everything that we're going to go over, from your nervous system to nutrition, attitude, everything, will make you less vulnerable every single day. So let's say you had a goal 90 days from now that you wanted to become less vulnerable and become a least vulnerable person. You can make little changes going over this list every single day, and in 90 days, you will be so confident that you are less vulnerable, that you'll be literally fearless, not reckless, but fearless, because of the way that you have empowered yourself and taken care of yourself. So let's talk about the power of positive thinking. You know, some people will say, come on, oh, that's just hogwash. No, it is not. It is well documented. There's so much science on this. We don't have time to get into all of it, but it is absolutely true that the power of positive thinking works, that it helps build your immune system, and it makes you a positive thinking, a positive outlook, makes you a least vulnerable person. People with a family history of heart disease who also had a positive outlook were 1/3 less likely to have a heart attack or other cardiovascular event within 5 to 25 years than those with a more negative outlook. That is a staggering statistic. This finding even held in people with a family history who had the most risk factors for coronary artery disease, and positive people from the general population were 13% less likely than negative counterparts to have a heart attack or other coronary event because of a positive attitude. So exciting, because literally you can change your thinking overnight. One of the things that people love about the 100-year lifestyle and embracing the opportunity of their extended life, it changes them from a negative outlook or a worried outlook about aging to a very positive outlook about aging. And there's a great article also on 100yearlifestyle.com. It's called The Movie of You. And if you read that article, it goes over how you can change your outlook literally overnight by watching yourself like you're watching a movie, doing a midstream catch, and shifting yourself from negative thoughts to positive thoughts if you have the desire to do it. If you don't have the desire to do it, that's something that you have to do for yourself. We talk about the healthcare hierarchy a lot in the 100-year lifestyle, where there's self-care, healthcare, and crisis care. And the self-care piece of it, these are the things that you have to do for yourself that nobody can do for you. And so if you watch yourself like you're watching a movie and change on the fly, you'll be amazed at how much better you feel, how much more optimistic you become, and how much healthier your immune system is. We know that happiness boosts the immune system. For a long time, we didn't know why. It's been published in Scientific American. It's been published in a lot of books in a lot of different places. We know that happiness boosts the immune system. We don't know all the scientific details why, but we do know that it is true. Just like gravity existed long before the apple fell on Isaac Newton's head, we know that happiness boosts the immune system. Couple of quick research studies on this. There's mounting evidence that suggests that these effects may have to do with the mind's power over the immune system. One recent study, for example, polled healthy first-year law students at the beginning of the school year to find out how optimistic they felt about the upcoming year. By the middle of the first semester, the students who had been confident that they would do well had more and better functioning immune cells than the worried students. So watch, positive outlook, confidence stimulates the immune system. Some researchers think also, and we've already found this to be true, that the pessimism can stress you out, boosting levels of destructive stress hormones in your bloodstream. So we know this to be true. Positive thinking improves physical health. Norman Cousins wrote about this in the 60s, I believe it was, and this is a man that was one of the fathers of the mind-body connection movement, and because he was diagnosed with a life-threatening autoimmune disease. And he used Marx Brothers films and humor to heal himself. And it made a difference. It improved the quality of his life dramatically. We know that optimism and immune function go hand in hand. There's a growing body of research conducted on HIV-positive men that indicated that positive and negative outlooks on life may have an impact on immune functions. In these studies, men with AIDS who are optimistic live longer than those who had pessimistic expectations. And we also know that the immune system proliferative response decreases by 15% and continues to decrease in chronically stressful situations. So people that are exposed to chronic stress, they become more vulnerable people. If you eliminate stress with a positive outlook and optimism, you make yourself a least vulnerable person. Next, eliminating waste. This is really a big deal, especially now. We are seeing in our practices, more and more of our affiliates are seeing in our practices, we're seeing kids that are coming in with headaches, dizziness, all kinds of problems because they are not eliminating waste from their body properly. There are only 4 ways that your body eliminates waste. There's sweat, urine, feces, and respiration. If you do not eliminate waste from your body becomes toxic. When your body becomes toxic, your immune system is strained. Your immune system has to work extra hard to fight off a buildup of toxins inside your body. And for example, we all know what it's like to be constipated. If you're constipated and you get that backup inside your body, it can make you sick, not just because you're uncomfortable in your gut, but because you become more toxic. So there are 4 ways that we eliminate waste. There's sweat, urine, feces, and respiration. You wouldn't lick your own sweat. You wouldn't drink your own pee. You wouldn't eat your own poop, and you shouldn't inspire your own expiration or carbon dioxide. This makes you more vulnerable when you are not eliminating waste from your body properly. We have teachers beginning to report students in school that are wearing masks all day long. They're reporting headaches, dizziness, nausea, lightheadedness, hypoxia, all kinds of things in this article. It describes all of the things that we're talking about in more detail. So make sure that if you are afraid and you feel the need to wear a mask, which I don't, and a lot of our people don't, and a lot of people that we know around the world don't, but if you feel like you do, you should really limit the amount of time you spend in a mask. And if you make yourself a least vulnerable person, you'll probably want to take it off completely and live without it because you trust your body's immune system. So eliminating waste from your body through the expiration of your carbon dioxide is really, really important. Next, healing in your mind. Again, the immune system and nerve supply. This is very relevant from our perspective, my perspective as a doctor of chiropractic for 35 years, teaching people around the world, teaching tens of thousands of doctors around the world over the last 20 years. We know this to be true, that your immune system can't function without nerve supply. nerve interference can cause immune system stress. They did experiments early on when this new field of science was created called psychoneuroimmunology, and they found for the first time how the nerve system cells were communicating directly with the immune system cells. They found when they cut the nerve supply going to the immune system that the immune system tended to not be near as effective. The body broke down, the immune system functioned less effectively, and there was more sickness and illness as a result on a cellular level. We know this to be true. And when we talk about the nervous system, we're talking about the brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves that come out that go to every single cell of the body. One thing that we also know, and we've seen this happen in all different types of studies, we don't have the time to get into all of them, but this was published in Science Daily. We found that the interconnection between the nervous system and the immune system is real, that there is a neuroendocrine reflex that triggers infections. What happens is they found in this study, researchers have shown that there was an increased incidence of infections seen in spinal cord injury patients where the nerve system was directly injured, that it was directly linked to a disruption of the normal central nervous system function. We see that very often with subluxations, which are not a spinal cord injury like this, but where there's other types of injuries less than this, subluxation, less than this, sub less than this, but still affecting the immune system function. And so we know that, and we see it in our practices, kids that are getting adjusted that used to get sick all the time don't get sick near as often or hardly at all anymore. We just had a young girl that came in with a sore throat today, and she just started her care, and she's excited about the opportunity of strengthening her immune system because she's strengthening her nervous system. So there is a direct connection here that is really important that we understand. We know that stress leads to, in addition to a decreased immune function, in the same way that it affects immunity, it will also affect and cause unhealthy aging. It can lead to premature aging. We know, according to a study by the National Academy of Sciences, that stress shortens telomeres, the caps on your genes, and increases oxidative stress, which can lead to premature aging of your cells. If enough of your cells age, you become a more vulnerable person instead of a least vulnerable person. So if you have postural imbalances and you look in the mirror and you see head tilts, or you see your shoulders out of balance, or you go to have clothes hemmed and you have one arm shorter than the other or appearing shorter than the other, or a jacket doesn't fit right because you're carrying your posture, or you look at yourself in your selfies, or you look at yourself in family photos and you're seeing yourself bent over, you can guarantee that you have interference in your nervous system almost assuredly, and your body is breaking down because of these imbalances, and it is affecting your immune system. It is affecting your, causing you premature aging. I'm going to show you a poster in just a minute that we have hanging in our office that really describes how this aging issue happens. And if you want to understand how the nervous system works, it's pretty simple. It communicates with the outside world while at the same time interacting the inner world. It keeps everything, the interactions of your inner world and your outer world, all working in harmony as long as the messages from the nervous system get through. I liken it to a IT system. Just like you have a internet, we're on Zoom, we got an IT system going big time. We have people from all over the country. We may have some people from around the world that are tuning into this. When you look at the IT system of the body, your nervous system is your body's natural IT system. It's your natural internet system, your natural cell phone system. And without it, without your IT system working at all, life is not possible. If there's interference to the way your IT system is communicating, because it should be communicating from your brain to your body, up and down, if there's any interference to that pathway, your body becomes more vulnerable. If you remove that interference, your body becomes less vulnerable. When we're adjusting our patients, when we're adjusting our people who are coming from the crisis care mode, they make this critical transition from crisis care to lifestyle care, then their body's IT system becomes, health becomes the natural state, because their body's IT system is functioning at a high level all the time. And if you optimize it, then you can express your full potential for a lifetime. We see this in a lot of the high-level athletes that we work with. We've taken care of professional, Olympic, college, high school athletes, national champions over the last 35 years. And we see this universally for athletes that think this way about their body's natural IT system, their nervous system. We call it essential innervation. It's essential innervation. It is essential for life. The challenge that we have in our country today, in our society today, we have an epidemic of nerve disorders. These nerve disorders range from autism in children to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's in seniors and adults. And according to Dr. Ziv, a medical doctor, there's an article that he wrote, Neurological Disorders Are the Growing Epidemic of and Debilitating Epidemic of Our Time. We are certainly seeing this in our practice. We have so many people that are bringing family members, friends, coworkers. They see a little bit of a shake or a little bit of a tremor, or their memory's not becoming as good because of all the vulnerability factors that we have talked about, which can be affecting their nervous system, the function of their nervous system. So it's exciting for us. They come in, we start to remove some of these interferences. They become less vulnerable. We increase their immune system function, not because we're working directly on their immune system, but we are eliminating the effects of these nervous system challenges, which include subluxations to the spine, any types of neck injuries or spinal injuries, or just dysfunction in those areas. One thing that Dr. Ziv states, which I completely agree with, he says that having a healthy brain and nervous system is vital to being able to think clearly, without which our active will lacks intelligence, guidance, and is weakened. Why is that important? We see it all the time. We had a woman come in just the other day. One of our practice members came in, started getting adjusted, and all of a sudden she said, you know, my workouts are better. I started making healthier food choices. And I asked her why. And she said, because I'm just feeling so much better. I just feel like I want to. Well, what happens is when you start to get healthier, when we make those adjustments to your nervous system, your body becomes less vulnerable. Your innate intelligence, that wisdom that we talked about, that IT system, that healthcare technology, the ultimate healthcare technology, that innate intelligence that we talked about earlier, it starts to communicate louder with you. And it makes it easier for you to say yes and to say no to the things that are good for you versus the things that may not be good for you. And so it builds your intelligent guidance so that it becomes stronger and you become less vulnerable. One of the things that is true, and we've talked about this many times, we're going to talk about this more on 100yearlifestyle.com. Dr. Ziv states that we live in a toxic world. The great majority, this actually makes me crazy, makes me mad that this is happening, but the great majority of chemicals we now take in daily were not on the planet 30 years ago. These toxins become neurotoxins, damaging the nervous system. We have a lot of people that come in when they start their care, and they realize all the toxins they've been exposed to and how it may have harmed their nervous system. And what's exciting is we start to increase the health of their nervous system, their posture. They start to see these areas that are in their life, and they start to stand against them through their choices, and they make themselves less vulnerable people. I love that. Going back to this gift that we're giving you, go, if you haven't done it yet, go to 100yearlifestyle.com. If you scroll around on some of the articles, you'll see this pop-up will come up. And if you put in your information, you will get sent to you this ebook on exciting neuroscience breakthroughs for all. You could listen to the podcast on it. It's really good. I interviewed Dr. Stephanie Sullivan, PhD at Life University, on neuroscience. Amazing person, good friend. And this information will help empower you to make healthier choices that strengthen your immune system, strengthen your nervous system, and make you a least vulnerable person. Just a couple of quick research tidbits related to the chiropractic care that myself and a lot of our affiliate chiropractors, 100-Year Lifestyle Network of doctors around the country are providing, why it matters. It has been shown that chiropractic care can has an influence on oxidative stress and DNA repair. This is really important for people that want to be healthier and function better. Oxidative stress metabolically generating free radicals is now broadly accepted theory of how we age and develop disease, and oxidative stress results in DNA damage. And we know through some research that, and the Journal of Vertebral Subluxation, it was published that chiropractic care can influence the basic physiological processes affecting oxidative stress and DNA repair. So many reasons to follow along with this. We know that it is essential through every phase of life, that you need good nerve supply, very important, which brings me to the next piece of making yourself a least vulnerable person, that there is a direct link between physical activity and the body's defense system. So acute exercise is an immune system adjuvant. It improves the defense, activity, and metabolic health. Data supports it clearly, the inverse relationship between moderate exercise and illness risk. So the more you exercise, the risk of illness has a tendency to go down. Exercise training has an anti-inflammatory influence. Illness risk is increased in athletes during periods of intensified training, which kind of goes the opposite way, because if you overtrain, your body tends to break down. And so this is why what we realize with the chiropractic care we were talking about, and we don't have time to get into all of this today. There are other places on 100yearlifestyle.com for this information. But for those of you that are doing fitness, if you ever find that you have repetitive injuries, or you reach a certain level and you plateau, or you reach a certain level and your body breaks down, so you have to stop. It may be that you're focusing on the nutrition, the endurance, the strength, and the structure, but you're forgetting the neurology, the function of your nervous system. The acronym that we have for fitness is neurology, nutrition, endurance, strength, and structure. And neurology comes first. I was talking to one of our practice members today. She is the head swimming coach for a prestigious high school here in the area. And she's been a advocate for what we do in the 100-Year Lifestyle and for the chiropractic care we provide probably for a decade now. Amazing person. Her name is Sharon, fantastic person, great coach. And we were talking about this today, how important it is for athletes to understand, people that exercise to understand that neurology comes first. Why does it come first? It's really kind of simple and it's kind of funny, but not really funny, that muscles are attached to bones and they're controlled by nerves. And if it wasn't for the nerves and it wasn't for the muscles, if it wasn't for the nerves and the bones, the muscles would just hang out. Now, certainly they serve a very important function. But if you cut the nerve going to the muscle cannot function. If you watch, we talked about people that have spinal cord injuries earlier. Well, just like it affects their immune system to have a severe neurological insult like that, well, it also means that those people cannot use their muscles. If you ever watch somebody that had that type of injury try to rehabilitate themselves, they can't get full range of motion in an arm, for example. They literally will strain just to try to get 1/8 of an inch of movement or just any signs of muscle contraction. And that's because the neurology comes first. So anybody that exercises and everybody that exercises should make sure their nervous system is functioning properly. They should make sure the structure is balanced, and they should make sure that the neurology is working right. That's something that a lot of our affiliate offices, chiropractic offices, 100-Year Lifestyle Network of doctors can support you with if you have not seen them. Next, sick, fit people. We have seen, and we do see it on a regular basis, where people that are not taking care of the neurology or the structure, that they are sick, fit people. They have a six-pack in their stomach, but they have a gym bag filled with medication. If you're doing this, or you know people that are doing this, you are not healthy. You are not healthy. You have muscles, but you are not healthy. You are making yourself sicker. We have people that we see them all the time. They come in for the care that we're providing in our office and our affiliates. We talk about it all the time. And they come in and they have six packs. They are muscular. They're beefy. They think everything is a muscle, but they have so much pain. They have so much illness. They're constantly getting colds. They're constantly getting sick. They're constantly getting injured. They're getting diseases, a lot of them, even because their bodies are out of balance. They are neurologically challenged. So if you know people that are sick, fit people, then it's an important reason for them to maybe come in and get a checkup, make themselves a least vulnerable person. This is that poster that I was telling you about. This is a really important concept. We share this with a lot of our practice members. We'll share it with you. A lot of our affiliates have this hanging in their office. If you look here, this is a How Are You Aging poster. This picture here, I don't know if you could see my arrow moving here, but if you see, this is a fairly good neck curve, looking at their neck from the side with good spacing in between the bones. And all of these people, by the way, these are 3 different people. They are exactly the same age. They're all in their mid-50s. All of the bones within these people are exactly the same age. Now, why is that relevant? because quality of life and longevity has nothing to do with age. Vulnerability, remember we talked about this right up front. Vulnerability has nothing to do with age. So why is this important as it relates to this image? So here's good disc spacing. This is near normal. This looks like if you showed this to any x-ray specialist in the world and said, how old do you think that this person is? They might say 30, but really this person is in their mid-50s. But then you look at this second person here, this one in the middle, who that has only had crisis care. They only get adjusted when they hurt. When they have a problem, they will come in, they'll get an alignment, they'll get an adjustment, they'll give an adjustment to subluxate, they'll remove some nerve pressure, make a little bit of a temporary correction, and they feel better. Or they'll take some medication and they'll feel better. The problem is that because they are only doing the crisis care, they end up deteriorating more comfortably because they never take care of the nervous system and the spine, the alignment as a priority. So watch, these people are exactly the same age. The bones within this person in the middle, they're exactly the same age. The disc spacing, they're exactly the same age. Why is that important for you to understand from a vulnerability perspective? If you showed this x-ray with covering up the top part, cover up the top where the white arrow is, and you just showed the red arrow area and said, how old is this person? The x-ray specialist, the radiologist might say, well, that person is probably in their 60s, 70s maybe. Well, no. What about this person with the white arrows pointing? Well, that person's in their 30s. No, no, no. This is the same person. It's the same person. This middle person is much more vulnerable. They're more vulnerable to injury. They're more vulnerable to getting sick. They're more vulnerable to stress. They're more vulnerable to anything related to the nerve supply and the structures that this area feeds. So this middle person, crisis care only, this person on the left has had no care, just medication, covering up symptoms, deteriorating along the way. Watch, all these people are exactly the same age. This is a problem. And so what you notice on these upper bones here, if you're still looking at this, these are still good. And this person, they're all the bones are the same age. So this person has deteriorated more comfortably. They become more vulnerable, an MVP, a more vulnerable person, while this person on the right here is a least vulnerable person. And they're all the same age. It has nothing to do with age. And I'm going to continue on, everybody, because I want to get through all of this. If you want to come back, we may make it available for you to watch the rest of this as time goes on. We'll let you know about that if you stay in contact with us. If you need to go, I know we said it would be about 45 minutes to an hour. We're going to go over that time period. So you're welcome to come back, contact us if you'd like to hear the rest of it, but we're going to keep on going. So here's the thing. When you're doing the things that make you less vulnerable and you make them your lifestyle, then you become less vulnerable and you become much more healthy. But when you stop, you become more vulnerable again. So for example, we know that when it comes to exercise, research published in the Journal of Frontier in Aging and Neuroscience revealed that endurance runners who skipped workouts for 10 days had reductions in blood flow to the brain. So watch, when you stop anything good for you, your body breaks down. We've seen it with chiropractic care where the people that come in, they have unhealthy spines, they have injuries, they get a few adjustments, they feel better, but they don't do anything for stability. They don't transition to lifestyle care, so they're on a roller coaster. So watch, if you want to stay less vulnerable, then learn to love the things that are good for you and make those things your new ideal 100-year lifestyle, and you will stay less vulnerable as a part of a lifestyle. You'll realize that the treats that you thought were treats were actually tricks in disguise because they were making you more vulnerable, and then you stop missing them. It's kind of cool when that happens. It's really fun. Next, and we're going to really start to fly through this, though, because a lot of this is common sense. Super important, though, is that we also know that community equals immunity. That community and immunity go hand in hand. We know that social relationships, quality and quantity, affect mental health, healthy behavior, physical health, and mortality risk. Social isolation causes healthy, well-functioning individuals, eventually results in their psychological and physical disintegration and even death. So all of the social distancing, there's no research that supports it, and it is making a lot of people more vulnerable. So community equals immunity. It's time to get out there. We know that hugs kill bugs. We know that, in fact, I'll go a little bit ahead of myself here. Science proves that hugs kill bugs. There's plenty of research out there that people exposed to common cold viruses and monitor them to assess their infections, that when they were exposed to social support, their immune systems got stronger. They had less severe symptoms and illnesses. It is absolutely true in so many ways. And I'm going to go backwards now and catch up on some of these other issues. Toxins in the environment. We know that toxins in technology, they are very bad for your body, can cause you to be more vulnerable. If you want to be less vulnerable, we want you to remove the toxins, have much less use of technology. We have just formed a great relationship with Moms Across America. They just put an article up on our website, glyphosate-free shopping. It'll help keep your diet clean, keep toxins out of your body, minimize technology for your kids, especially with all of these kids, so sad to me, who are just doing where the schooling with their peers, getting together. That should go back to normal, in my opinion, and in the scientific community's opinion, depending on who you read. But no question about it in my mind that we need to get together. We need to go back into school and have less use of technology, more social interaction. We learn from each other. Sunshine is good for you. The sunshine vitamin, vitamin D, the best source of vitamin D. If you get 20 minutes of sunshine a day or every other day, it'll be amazing the boost that it gives you to your immune system. We also know that good nutrition is vital. It will help you nourish your body for optimum function. It'll help counter the balances or the impact and the effects of stress. Really simple nutrition from a general perspective. You want organic, non-toxic food, live foods, plant-based as much as possible, 90% if possible, fruits and vegetables, organic, plant-based protein, vegetables, dark and colorful, buckwheat, soba noodles, better than white noodles or white flour, chickpeas, beans, edamame, lentils, tofu, quinoa, spirulina, nuts, seeds, nut butters, all really good. Oats and whole grains, brown rice, lean meats. These are all very simple concepts as it relates to nutrition. Very simple concepts. You want to, in a nutshell, remember this, choose QCs, quality calories, over ECs, which are empty calories. Always choose quality over empty. You want to avoid the empty, which are processed foods, canned foods, the white sugar, white rice, white flour, white pasta. Avoid soda, pop for my Midwestern friends. Minimize caffeine and alcohol, and clean up your diet, balance out your diet. If you're a mom and you're thinking, should you or shouldn't you? Yes, nursing is really good for your baby. It is a priority. It should be a priority, if at all, that you can. And so, great article on 100yearlifestyle.com, nursing, nutrition, and nerve supply, that will help. And so here we go. Science, again, proves that hugs kill bugs. And we are officially winding down. I'm going to give you a few more resources and then a closing quote that I feel like is very powerful. So again, the resources. Get the ebook on neuroscience. Get the ebook, 100-Year Lifestyle Second Edition. Direct your family and friends to do the same thing so that you can talk about it together. Make yourselves least vulnerable. There's an article on 100yearlifestyle.com on becoming a least vulnerable person. Our podcasts will absolutely, there's great podcasts that we've done on the immune system, on becoming a least vulnerable person, on changes and getting off the roller coaster ride. Go through them all. You'll really like them. If you have any specific questions, you can email support@100yearlifestyle.com. If you are a doctor and you want to learn more about becoming one of our affiliates, you want to learn more about how you can be a part of this network that is growing around the country and worldwide, we'd love to have you as a part of our network. We will equip you to lead your community in ways that are very similar to this program. In fact, this is one of the programs that you'll have access to deliver to your community. So email us at support@100yearlifestyle.com if you have a question about that. If you want us to find you a provider in your area, if you don't know, if we don't have somebody on the map there, this does happen quite often. So maybe we can find you somebody. or if you have somebody that you want to recommend, we're all ears. We want to fill this planet up with people that are embracing and providers that are embracing that incredible healing power within the ultimate healthcare technology, that innate intelligence within you, so that you can function at your highest level for a lifetime. So please do that. Contact us. We'd love to hear from you. Here's a look at the map. So we have doctors all around the country, providers all around the country. I'm going to get to the chat before we sign off, everybody, by the way, so I'll be looking at that. So be on the lookout on the map for somebody in your area, or recommend somebody, or if you're a doctor on the line and we don't have somebody in your area, we'd love to get you on the map and begin to refer patients to you, people to you, so that you can make a bigger difference in your community. Another thing that I'm going to get you excited about is when you go to the homepage now, take this little quiz. Click on Calculate Your Longevity Potential. It's a simple calculation. It will empower you whether you like the number or the result or not. You'll be empowered by what you learn. So great information there on 100-Year Lifestyle. Again, tons of podcasts. And then here's a quote, a closing quote that I believe is extremely important for you making a choice to become a more or less vulnerable person. And it's been an honor to be with you today and to be able to support you in this process. And so here's a quote by Stephen Covey, the man who wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think it's very relevant to the healthcare system that we're in and the choices that we may be making. Most people spend their whole lives climbing the ladder of success, or let's say health, only to realize when they get to the top, the ladder has been leaning against the wrong wall. So true. In my opinion, I truly believe that we have an entire healthcare system with the ladder leaning against the wrong wall. Well, my friends, it is time to go and choose a different wall, the wall of least vulnerability, because if the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, every step we take just gets us in the wrong place faster. So there are some of us, we are on a path of being most vulnerable. We're taking lots of medications. We're not sleeping good. We are not exercising, or we're sitting too much, or our posture is a mess. We're not breathing good oxygen. We're toxic in our environments, and we are subluxated. We have neurological imbalances that are causing us, no matter what we do on the outside, to not be able to function well on the inside. Well, listen, every step you take in the wrong direction is getting you to the wrong place faster. It's time to change directions, not to just double up and triple up on all the things that you may be doing that are not working. So we want you to be empowered. We want you to become a least vulnerable person. We want to help you raise a least vulnerable family. We want to empower you to live your ideal 100-year lifestyle, because remember, we want you at 100% for 100 years. Your 100 is coming. You make the call. We have a generation of seniors that did not know they were going to live this long. So they didn't know how to take care of themselves to ensure quality of life as they age. You are getting the advance notice that our parents and grandparents never received. And so now, what will you do with this information? So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Make healthy choices. Become a least vulnerable person. Start living your ideal 100-year lifestyle. Don't do it alone. Go to our social media pages. Spend time with us. Email us, because your 100 is coming, everybody. You make the call.